This is the first institution code that appears in my opening sequence. I wanted to have the effect of a typewriter because it conveys the genre because it has a creepy effect. The first time I done this, it was at a very slow pace and it was long-winded, and so I decided to speed this up so the audience wouldn't become uninterested. This is the second institution code. I decided I wanted this one to be quicker because the other one was longer and more intricate. However, it still fits the genre of thriller because it has dark colours which has connotations of death and mystery. I faded out the sound at the end, so when the heartbeat sound effect starts, it is much louder and the transition is much smoother. The sound effect of a heartbeat starts, which helps to build tension and keep the audience engaged. This is my establishing shot, which is a high-angle mid-shot of the main protagonist's feet swinging. This is quite unconventional because stereotypically an establishing shot is a long shot to set the scene. However, the first few camera shots show a short sequence of the main protagonist, with the last one being her face, to build up a representation of her which engages the audience. This is when the first piece of non-diegetic narration is introduced. This is key to the narrative of my opening sequence because it informs the audience on the main protagonist's feelings and also gives them more information on her character. It also hints at the fact that the other character isn't real without giving too much away, which engages the audience because it will include enigma codes and they will keep watching to find out what happens later on in the film. This is the mid-shot of the main protagonist who is looking off into the distance. I wanted her to look off camera to suggest that she is thinking, which links to the narration which is being played throughout this. This is the first time the audience sees the main character and builds up the representation of her being a stereotypical teenager in which they can relate to, and so this is how I intended to attract my audience. I don't need an imaginary friend. I decided to put the last piece of narration on a black screen because it engages the audience much more. It creates tension and interests them into what is going to happen next. This is when the time lapse starts. I've done this by speeding up the duration so the clip looks like it's in fast forward. This gave the intended effect of a small montage that showed the two characters' relationship. The two teenagers would attract my target audience because they can relate to them. This is also when my non-diegetic music begins, which plays throughout the rest of my opening sequence. I made it loud at the beginning to show a contrast to the previous scenes. The music links to my genre because the piano sound is slightly creepy. However, I couldn't make it too creepy as this wouldn't fit my narrative too well. At the end of the time-lapse, I decided to split the clip and add in a cross-dissolve. This is because I wanted the audience to clearly see the two characters hugging to show their positive relationship, which is important to the narrative in the later scenes. This is when my film title appears on screen. I decided to place it here as it is conventional to do so and gives the audience an idea on what the genre and narrative is, and so this is one way I attracted my audience. I chose this font as it links to the narrative of her mind being all over the place, and so builds the representation of the main character. The next few shots are low-angle mid-shots of tree branches in which my titles appear on. I wanted to film the trees as they give a sinister effect which links to my genre and will engage the audience. This is an example of when I first used match on action during my opening sequence. This is a basic editing technique and was vital in my sequence. It helps to keep the audience watching so they don't get bored. I decided to place the camera in the fridge for this shot to show the other character behind her, which will shock the audience and engage them. This mid-shot shows that the character keeps appearing and informs the audience on the narrative. This is when the second piece of non-diegetic narration starts. It explains more about the narrative and informs the audience more on their relationship. And if I don't do them, she screams at me. I don't have any choice. I wanted to include a close-up of the main character using direct mode of address because it breaks the fourth wall with the audience and they will be able to connect with her more. It also gives a creepy effect which links to my genre. Lastly, I wanted to reintroduce the sound effect of the heartbeat, which I made get louder and louder. This builds up tension and attracts the audience as they will want to know what happens next in the film.